Alright, so welcome back. Today I have a fairly big project, which I'm not even going to bother testing because it's quite big. We have the tender from one cab forward that I got recently. I have the chassis and the cab shell, or whatever you want to call this, off of it. The other screws and stuff are in my parts thing off to the side. And I have the front of this from this cab forward that I'm going to use. And I'm going to be using this front truck of the cab forward because on here it is completely broken. And I'm also likely going to steal the parts off the front of this, but I haven't completely decided on that yet. That'll be something that'll be in the future, but I am using this shell, this chassis, and this bit here to make one cab forward. So I'm going to move some of the stuff I don't really need out of the way, and I'll let that dry, and then I'll get to work on starting to swap some parts around and test the thing out. So I think first of all I need to attempt to get this shell off. I think I only have one, I only have one screw holding this thing in. My plan was to get rid of this thing, but that didn't happen, and now I have a second one, so I want to have a semi-decent cab forward. I also forgot, this thing on that one is cracked. I don't even know what this goes to. I'm not even going to worry about that part, I'll just use the one that's in the other frame. What this means is I've got to get this screw out. And I've got to unscrew this. It's certainly going to need a little bit of cleaning and whatnot, but for now I think it'll work just fine. So I'm going to just, for the second being, move everything from this cab forward out of the way. Attempt to do the same thing with this one. Now I'm gonna have to figure out how to get this wire out, and then I'll come back once that is freed. Alright, so far this has been a much bigger hassle than I expected. I was going to use the front, I guess, truck off this cab forward, but it had the same issue. This I noticed was off, so I just kind of nudged it, and it completely broke. This part was also pretty busted. So I'm trying to use this, but the roadblocks I've had so far is that the screw in there has fallen out, but other than that, and the spring's disconnected, so I'm going to fix those things again off camera and hopefully come back once this is connected back up to this. Alright, so if it isn't obvious, my desk is a little bit of a disaster, but I now have this attached to here. I still need to string up a new wire, and I will probably just, on camera, take this one off, and then with some of the new wire I got recently, just run a big stretch from here out, and then cut it exactly where I need it to be. But before that, I'm just gonna put the shell back on this thing, make sure I've got all the pieces to this, and try and put most of this other junk cab forward back together. Alright, so for now I put this all back in one piece, but shortly after I turn this clip off, I'm going to take the shell back off so I can figure out how to route this wire. I cut it a bit longer than I need it to, just for routing purposes. I also found the horn. I thought I had broken it off, but it just fell out, so I just stuck it back in place for now. And that's, I think, most of the updates. A lot of the parts from the other cab forward are just junk, so at this point I have a few detail pieces off that, the tender and the motor. And other than that, I've got some parts in a bag, which I'll see if a friend needs, but if not, it's just, for the most part, junk. It was junk to begin with, and hopefully, since we had two junk cab forwards, this will mean we have one decent working cab forward. So I'm going to take the shell back off, and then once I get that dealt with and everything sorted out, I'll come back and maybe we'll solder this off camera, or on camera. Maybe I won't. We'll see. So you'll see what I decide in a second. Alright, so it seems like this wiring was a success. I did just test this thing out on the layout, which I'll show you in a little bit. But this wiring, it's a little bit janky, but it does indeed work. The wire I cut seemed to be the exact perfect size, so that's always a great thing to do. But yeah, when I was running the engine, it was running pretty rough. It definitely needs these trucks to be cleaned out and oiled, and got some other little bits of cleanup work to do. So I think I'm just going to clean up some more of these detail bits, and then after that I'll show you how this thing runs, just so I can give this motor a little time to cool. Alright, so I got the beast set up on the track, so I'll show you, before we get any, well, cleaning and oiling work done to this thing, how it's working. It's a little easier to tell in reverse. It's actually cleared up a little bit since I last tested it. It was jerking around quite a bit. Give it a tap. It's a little bit evident there, but yeah. I think this thing just needs a good clean out and a good wheel cleaning. And I think it'll be in pretty good shape. The light, it's kind of hard to tell, but the light is also working. So now let's go take it over to my desk, and I won't say a thing, and we'll just clean up the trucks and everything. Alright, so the engine is complete. It does indeed work decently now. I put the shell off camera. That's both directions. Not running much backwards, which is why it is not running so great in reverse currently. This motor is also really weak, so it does not like to run really slowly, but again, it does indeed work, and it is rescued from the trash, basically. So thanks for watching. This thing isn't perfect, and before we leave, I guess I'll give a few clips of this thing running around.